Sennheiser HD660S. Man, I'm getting tired of saying Sennheiser at the beginning of every single video, but here we are, Sennheiser HD660S. Let's jump into it. So, let me start off by saying thank you to Silent who lent me these headphones. He bought them used, keep that in mind. So, I will point out parts in sections of the video where I could say, well, maybe it's this way because they're used, and I'll point them out. So, let's start off with what it comes with. Same box as 600, 650s, 58Xs, no, actually not the 58Xs, but the 6XXs by Mastrop and Sennheiser, the collaboration. Same box, inner box, and the outer box will obviously say HD660S. Now, unfortunately, Silent told me that the seller did not have it, so that's why he doesn't have the box either. So let's start with the two cables that it comes with. It comes with the standard single-ended into 1/4 inch, which is perfectly fine, perfectly robust. Stock cable, no issues. Now we also have these, the Pentacon. Wow. Who uses this, I wonder? No one yet, but who knows? Maybe 2 to 3 years from now, people will actually start using this, and this will actually come in handy. So thank you, Sennheiser. Put that away for a couple of years, and maybe I'll pull it out at some point later on. Now this is a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch adapter, which, although I appreciate that they included it because, thank you very much, I think I would have preferred it if the stock cable, the original cable single-ended, ended in 1/8 inch and then had an adapter to 1/4 inch. I think that would have been much more helpful and easier to handle. Just like in the 600s, 650s, no, not 650s, 6XX and the 58X. I think that's a much better alternative than this, but it's appreciated. Build quality of the headphones themselves. It's about the same as the HD600s, 650s, 6XX, and the 58X. It's nice. For the most part, it's plastic, but it does have a little bit of metal here in the headbands and on the grills. That's pretty nice. Perhaps not quite on par with what a $500 headphone should be at, but it's close. It gets there. Pads are exactly the same. They are, relatively comfortable. They get the job done, but they're no superheroes. They're no memory foam, no nothing. If anything, I just notice them being a little more plush than previous gens, but that's about it. It's not a massive improvement. Not that there desperately needs one, or there needs to be one, but it would have been appreciated. The headband padding is exactly the same as HD650, 6XX, and 58X. Definite improvement over HD600s for sure, because that means these are relatively comfortable if it weren't for the massive clamp. With these, not so much. With these, it's an acceptable clamp. They stay on your head, you can headbang for a little, and they won't fall off. But if anything, they'll just shift a little bit. They won't fall off your ears, they'll just shift in that space. And that's not an issue for me. Now, a big difference here is the paint job. This paint job will prevent the paint from chipping off and falling off so easily as opposed to the previous gen headphones. That's definitely an improvement. And now the cups here, this is luxury right here. The logo, the Sennheiser logo right there on the grill with that elevation, that is really nice. And good job to Sennheiser. These look a little more prestige, a little more distinctive. You see these and they're like, oh, it's those Sennheisers. It's not just a pair of Sennheisers, right? It's those. And I really like that. Now, comfort. As I said, they are comfortable enough. I had no issues with them, and if anything, but they're certainly not the most comfortable here in the $500 range. I felt more comfortable headphones, but they're quite acceptable. As far as amping goes, they do not need an amp because they are 150 ohms. I drove them off my smartphone perfectly fine at around 10 or 11 out of 15. That's about as loud as I needed them to be, and they were perfectly fine. However, they definitely benefit off of an amp, but not as much as the previous gen Sennheisers did. These are more efficient, which means no, an amp is not required, but it is certainly recommended to improve the sound, as with every, or at least 95% of headphones out there that try to sound good. So, speaking of sound, let's jump into that. The bass is thick, warm, and slow. Now I'm talking about the mid bass here. They have decent extension. They are relatively linear. It's certainly not a terrible bass, but it's a little slow and thick. As far as sub bass goes, they're a dynamic and they're a Sennheiser, which means they don't have a lot of sub bass. Do not expect to be, throwing any EDM parties in your head with these. They're not going to do that. Although the bass they have is acceptable enough. It's perfectly fine. In my opinion, I found these in the bass area to be a bit lazy. Just kind of not so tight. The bass is not very tight to me, and it's not quite as textured either. It's just kind of... Here's the thing, I don't want to say lush, because that would make it sound like positive, like, oh, that is so good, like the bass is so nice and smooth. Yeah, but it also does not sound very controlled either. It just sounds like the bass was a little ignored here. They didn't really pay attention to it. They just said, we're going to pay attention to something else. And the bass came out okay, but it certainly wasn't excellent. Mids. Vocals are very smooth, and if anything, they are ever so slightly forward from neutral. They have decent clarity to them, but their texture, I don't know, they just lack a little something in texture there. They don't, because of their smoothness, they don't quite get to sound as detailed as they can sound, unfortunately. I found the timbre to be very colored, just very not natural at all. These do not sound natural to me. They sound close, certainly closer than other headphones, such as other more mainstream headphones I'm speaking of. These are certainly audiophile material, but just not quite as much as other headphones were or are. I'll give an example here. The cellos, they did not have that, the bow moving across the strings. It did not have the finesse of a cello. It just kind of had this like buttery thing, as if you grabbed a massive stick of butter and just played the cello with that, I'm going to stop that now. The highs. Oh, the highs. These are dark. The highs are gone. The term Sennheiser veil at its worst. I'm sorry. I had at least similar expectations to everything else in the Sennheiser HD600 line. Or slightly better, because, these are the pricier headphone. And it's just not that. The highs are just gone. They're not there. It's just a thick blanket, the Sennheiser veil, a thick blanket over the sound. It's like they wanted to sound detailed, but then they just couldn't. They just couldn't get there at the end. As far as hi-hats and cymbals go, they were there. You can hear them, but they were miles away from you. Like they were just trying to reach you, but the headphone was like, nope, no, stay away. You cannot get near me. it was a strange experience. They have no air, very, very little air perceivable to my ears. The soundstage is, well, as this HD600 line is quite narrow. However, it is, I would say it's one of the widest in the line, comparable to the HD650s, more or less. Now, because of this, separation is, I'd say, on par, if not better, than the rest in the line. This separation is quite good. It's, I wouldn't say like spot on excellent due to the limited soundstage, but I would say it is very great, just like every other headphone in the HD600 line. Imaging, yeah, it was great, but just kind of lacks the space due to the narrow soundstage. And although what was presented to me on the left side or the right side was very detailed and it was relatively easy to pinpoint stuff out, the fact that there's so limited soundstage kind of prevents you from picking out finer details, such as with the LCD-2Cs that had such a wide soundstage that imaging and instruments had the separation available, the space so that separation can occur and occur successfully. So overall, I'm just really disappointed, honestly. And I don't say this to sound mean or to rebuke Sennheiser in any way. I expected at least something on par with the HD600 line, if not a little better, because, well, they are charging, more than they're charging for the rest of the headphones in the line. But that just wasn't the case. Honestly, if I had to be completely honest, I would place these right next to the 58X Jubilee and have not so tough of a time picking which of the two I like better, because I probably would pick the 58X. That's how astonishingly disappointing these were. That's how bad. I would almost consider picking the $150 headphone than the $500 headphone. This ain't a Sennheiser. I don't know. It's like it has the worst attributes of all the headphones in the HD600 line. That's the best way I can say it. The lower half of it has some decent detail. The upper half of it, and I'm speaking about the spectrum here, has not so nice a detail. Practically no detail there. That's what kind of surprised me about these. It's a little strange. So, I think that's where I'm going to end it, actually. The rest of this, the explanation that I was about to give, I'm going to include in the review. The comparison between the 660S and the 600s. So, I'll get to that. Anyway, for the about $500 price range, I recommend checking out either, well, the HD600's brand new, or around $300, so you can check those out. LCD-2Cs are, yes, they're $800, but they drop to $600 every now and then. So in that meanwhile, you can save up the extra $100 and buy them whenever you feel like it and check it out if you're into darker headphones. 600s if you're into brighter or more neutral sounding airy headphones. M1060Cs are also a good option. You may want to try those out. However, do keep in mind the so-so build quality, but the sound will be amazing. And the Audeze EL8Cs. Those are discontinued, so you can't buy those new off of Audeze anymore. If anything, B-stock whenever they come along. But those might be worth a try too. Keep in mind those are closebacks, but my God, those are amazing closebacks. When I had the pleasure of listening to those, amazing closebacks. Power them well, though. Power them very well. So yeah, Sennheiser, I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say.